For the next 2 weeks, you're going to be receiving your Brain Boost from Amsterdam, broadcasting from the Herengracht Canal in Amsterdam. And this week, we're going to talk about Gmod, the TransPacific Partnership, and Dell's $50 billion takeover of EMC. Let's start by looking at what's happening in the world of gaming, particular Garry's Mod, an extremely popular online game that sold over 9 million copies to date. Gmod is apparently coming out with a sequel that will include virtual reality. And this is a game where you can build anything in a sort of sandbox-like environment. Virtual reality is also in the news this week because Disney has released a virtual reality coloring book where you color on the iPad and then it turns your figures into a 3D model instantaneously. We've been covering virtual reality a lot. The possibilities are really amazing in this area, and I wanted to show you the YouTube video, which you can find in the description, where you see how this virtual coloring book from Disney works. All right, next let's look at the TPP. This is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and it would be a landmark trade deal. It involves 12 countries who represent over 40% of global GDP, and there's a lot of reasons to be interested in this deal. First of all, it would enable people who work in these different countries and want to move around to do so more freely. It will also lower the tariffs in these countries, which will improve the quality of life for people in these countries. Finally, it will streamline environmental processes so that the companies who are involved in business in all 12 of these countries have to adhere to streamlined environmental regulations. The deal hasn't been passed in each of the countries as of yet. That comes down to legislatures. But this deal was extremely difficult to negotiate. So for those of you interested in upgrading your negotiation skills, you might check out the Advanced Management Training course, which has been totally renovated on Udemy this week and includes an extensive section on negotiation where you can learn techniques like integrative bargaining. Finally, let's look at Dell's potential takeover of EMC for $50 billion. This would be the largest tech deal ever in history. EMC has subsidiaries like VMware and Pivotal Labs. And what's really interesting about this story is that there is an activist investor who is a shareholder in EMC that's pushing them to make some changes. Activist shareholders are really interesting because they can basically own so much stock that they can make the company do certain things. One of the most famous activist investors that you might want to know about is Carl Icahn. And I found a great interview with Carl on YouTube where he talks a little bit about the activist investor mindset. So check it out if you're interested. Links to these stories are all in the description of this video, and I'll see you next week at 10 a.m. Pacific for another Brain Boost from Amsterdam.